All right, so our next topic is progressive web apps, applications that we can have on any device, but they're actually just our MVC in disguise, you might say. Okay, I mean, let's face it, what we've come to in the world is everything is about apps, apps, right? That's what everyone wants, everyone needs, and you know what? Progressive web apps, as opposed to a native app, is almost as popular and very, very fast. Why would you even bother? These three things: time, money, and reach, right? With much less time, far less money, especially if you already have a good working responsive application, you can get the exact same reach, right, that you can with a native application as well. So there's no doubt that these are becoming more and more important going on. And what we're going to see is extremely easily we can take our existing application we built and turn it into a progressive web app, right? So what are we talking about here? Well, there's certain things that need to be in place before you can consider making your app into a PWA, right? It's got to be a well-designed app, right? It has to run through HTTPS, okay? It's going to be fast-loading, offline capable to a degree, right? PWA is app-like in the sense that you're not sitting there. It doesn't look like a browser, okay? The browser Chrome is removed. It looks like a native app for the most part, okay? But it is still based on your web application, right? So it's very flexible, linkable, locatable, right? Discoverable, either just by giving out the URL to your app and then they can install it from there, or you can actually publish it right in any of the app stores as well. Another advantage of the fact that it goes through the web is that updates are automatic, okay? You can be in charge of that, and as soon as they go and they access your app again, it gets updated automatically, right? But the real key here is that it's installable, okay? Whether they're on a Mac, a PC, any kind of an iPhone, Android phone, whatever, okay? It can just be installed, you know, in an iPhone, just select add to home screen, and away you go, right? So this slide just kind of shows the cross-platform nature of a PWA. All these different types of devices, all these different types of operating systems can all support your progressive web app. And you'd be surprised at the capabilities you get, okay? You can configure your app for everything from local storage to media capture and playback. You can have it vibrate the device, for example, peer-to-peer, right? So even, you know, going directly between two devices. All of these capabilities can be configured. Even think, well, one thing we will do before the end of the term is we'll add push notifications to our PWA as well, right? All these things can be added. Now, obviously, in the course right now, we don't have time to get into all of these, but I wanted to whet your appetite for what the capabilities are that you can build into your application as required eventually. All right. As I note here, they're becoming immensely important. And believe it or not, both Google and Microsoft, yeah, the two giants out there, they might compete in many ways, but they're both fully behind backing and promoting progressive web apps, right? So I'm not saying that native apps are going away, right? Absolutely, that is not true. But things are really swinging towards PWAs because of the richness of what they offer and the reach that they provide at the same time. So what does it really take, right? Basic requirements, well, you need to start with a good application, okay? So our ASP.NET MVC apps, as we've been building them, you know, make sure they're very responsive, you know, they are following the guidelines we've been putting together, should be well-designed, well-functioning web application. Good, boom, check, okay? Secure origin, okay? So we're going to be publishing it up to the web, probably on Azure, for example, as we've been doing so far. We have to make sure that it's fully secure origin. So HTTPS, but everything served through it must be through HTTPS. So any graphic images, we can't have links to things that are outside of our app that aren't secure and so on and so forth. By the way though, while we're developing the application, we can use localhost, okay? And that is acceptable during development. We also have to provide a service worker, okay? Now this is just a script, a JavaScript file, a background script separate from any page, right? Basically what goes on is on the client device, the device where your app gets installed, the service worker will be running in the background, okay? It might not always be there, but if you access the app, then it's running, right? And even when you close the app, it keeps running. And it provides then the functionality so your app is always available, even if, for example, as we're going to be adding the functionality of, for example, push notifications. Well, how is your push notification going to appear if the app is closed? Because the service worker is there running in the background. And we have to have a manifest, okay? It's just simply a JSON file. It gives the information that the app and the device needs for managing your application, okay? There are a number of properties we can include in the manifest, but at a minimum, we must have these four: the name of the app, a short name, the start URL, and various display options. Now, we can add even more into the manifest, and we're going to do that to a certain degree as we go through our demo. Okay. Also, we must provide, at the minimum, 2 icons. They must be PNG format, and they must be in these specific sizes: square, 192 by 192, and another one 512 by 512. These are used for your application icons, right? So in the start menu and desktop menu and so on. So when you have a link to click to open your app, these are what is used, right? And the path to these images is something you specify in the manifest itself. The next thing we need is we actually have to have on every page of your application a link to the manifest. Well, you know what? That's actually very easy for us. In the approach we've been using so far, basically our underscore layout, our partial view that acts as the layout for our whole application, is the perfect spot. We add this link there, and then every page we view is automatically includes the link to the manifest itself, right? Now, of course, down the road, if you do end up having multiple different layout pages used in different regions of your application, then just make sure this is on each one. And finally, we need a script to install the service worker, right? Now, you could have it on every page, but that would be ridiculous. You just need to get it installed. Once it's installed, it's there on the client. So I usually just put it on the home index, because that's kind of our landing page. That's where you go when you first go to the application, and that gets it installed, and then the job is done. So you don't need it anywhere else after that point in time. Okay, so how are we going to actually turn our site into this progressive web app? Okay, well, what I have here are a list of different resources. I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking at each and every one, but I do want to point out this first one in particular. It's the most in-depth resource you're probably going to find out there, right? In terms of progressive web apps, here's, all the general information you need, but here I encourage you to check out this link, Learn PWA, right? Goes into a whole set of tutorials on how to actually configure and work. So if you really want to take this further than the basic PWA setup we're going to demo today, then you really need to follow through, learn all about caching and so on and so forth, offline data, right? Because there's a lot you can do with the different approaches, cache first, network first, and so on, fingerprinting and resources and things like that, right? So there's much more that you can take it to. So I encourage you to take time if you're serious about eventually being, a more professional about how you set up your PWAs, then by all means, this is a great resource for you. Okay. Back to the PowerPoint. Another one here. This is a nice little utility. Good site for getting basic code, PWA Builder, right? Basically, you go through here. You can start a new PWA. Once you get it up there, you can ship it. It helps you get it shipped out to the different app stores and so on and so forth. And look at all these different apps that are packaged, right, as PWAs here. Did you know that X and TikTok were progressive web apps? Facebook, yeah. Look at that, see? So your app is going to be in good company when you get round to that, for sure. Okay. All right. This is another interesting article. This is basically a middleware that makes it easy, okay? As I say, not the Holy Grail. It's actually a little bit old now, but, feel free to have a look at it. Actually, I reference it again here on the next site, because what it provides is a NuGet package, okay? This NuGet package here, following the instructions on the site, you can install this, and then it helps you get things set up. Basically all the documentation is there, so just go through and follow along, okay? So actually this is the one that was on that first link, right? How to install the PWA and then go through the different configurations that are available and so on, right? This is still valid. It's 100% valid, right? But the truth is, in the end, what it does, it just helps you generate, depending on the options you configure here, it generates different versions of the service worker file, the JavaScript file, right? So I'm just going to give you one that was actually created by using this middleware, right? And it's set up with the default, let me get back to the PowerPoint here. Okay. The default cache first safe caching strategy is what we've implemented in the example that I'm going to do. But you know, it's something you can use, but I'm going to be honest, these days when this was actually first put out, the truth is it was before AI became popular. So now you can go to your favorite AI and just ask it to help you generate a good service worker file, and then you know it'll discuss with you quite willingly all the different options you might want to put in place and so on. So there's other ways you can get it, but I'm going to give you one to start off with as well, right? Anyway, so lots of options there to learn more, and I think I'll stop and start the recording before we get into the actual demo.